Hello everyone, we're group number 48, and today we will present our contrastive analysis on the guided reading strategy in virtual and face to face environments, based on our pedagogical practices as teachers in training at the UNAD. The members of this group are Jair Felipe Mora Guzman, Jensi Natalia Ariza Garcia, Jerry Dilicet Lizarazo Porras, and your speaker, Angie Lorena Quiroga Ramirez. Throughout this presentation, we will explain how guided reading can strengthen English reading comprehension, as well as students' motivation and participation in different educational contexts. We will also reflect on the challenges we face during the implementation of this strategy and the adaptations required in both face to face and virtual environments. To begin, it is important to mention that this research emerged from our experiences during pedagogical practice in two educational environments, face to face and virtual learning. During this process, we identified that many students had difficulties with English reading comprehension. Among the main problems, we found limited vocabulary, low motivation toward reading activities, and low confidence when participating in class. In the face to face context, we observed that some students constantly depended on the teacher to understand the text and were afraid of making mistakes when answering questions or participating orally. On the other hand, when we transferred these practices to the virtual environment, new challenges appeared. Although virtual learning offered interactive digital tools, we also faced difficulties related to connectivity, limited participation, and the need to maintain students' interest from a distance. This allowed us to understand that the transition was not only about using a virtual platform, but also about adapting pedagogical strategies and resources that truly support learning. In response to this situation, the general objective of our study was to analyze how the implementation of guided reading influences the development of reading comprehension and students' motivation in both virtual and face to face environments. In addition, we established a specific objective that allow us to compare both educational contexts. First, we sought to identify the differences between face to face and virtual environments in terms of interaction, teacher support, and available resources. We also analyzed which guided reading strategies were the most effective according to the teaching context used. Finally, we reflected on the pedagogical adaptations required to respond to students' needs in each learning modality. As a result, this study not only allowed us to evaluate a teaching strategy, but also to reflect on our role as future teachers and the importance of designing more dynamic, participatory, and meaningful learning experiences.
In this slide, we're diving into the theoretical framework that underpins all the research on the guided readings. Let's start by understanding the concept of foundation to guided reading improve comprehension by understanding the teacher supported according to the student needs. As the learners gain autonomy, they become more independent. The readings, vocabulary development, and comprehension works together to strengthen this process. Key concepts include the structure's strategy of guiding the reading this depth, uses questions, prediction, feedback, and scaffolding to improve understanding. Teachers broadly reduce support as students become more confident and actively participate in the reading process. Now, there is a research gap in comparing the guided reading in face-to-face and virtual English learning environments. Guided reading improves comprehension whilst encouraging student autonomy and active learning. Let's dive into some effective strategies and their theoretical foundations that can enhance your understanding of guided readings. We began um, with time to represent the reading TRR to improve reading fluency, speed, and word recognitions through the repeated reading in set time frames. Guided reading thinking activity DR TA develops prediction and critical thinking skills by encouraging students to use pre-order knowledge and analyze tasks. Research such as Williams Great, Frederica Stoller, Anna Chance, Stuart Millard, Anthony Pisciano, and Jens Willis have contributed to these approaches. Together, get guided reading these strategies create adaptable scaffoldings that support the students in different learning environments.
Hello everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Jerry Felipe Mora Guzman, and I will be speaking about the methodology that brought for the methodology report adult study with adult and quality approved based on action research. We use various data collection methods including field notes, lesson plans, classroom observation, and participants reflected notes. These notes used to document both the study's progress and difficulties. We also identify the similarities and differences between the face-to-face and online learning modalities, a phase that allows used to evaluate the results obtained according to the specific challenges of each education context. Next, we will compare to the environments face-to-face versus virtual. Our process was divided in three phases. First, a description on the experience. Second, a comparison of the cycle and virtual environments in key aspects such as classroom, mandate, and finally the interpretation of the findings in light of academic theory. By contrasting both scenarios, we observed that the face-to-face environment fosters immediate interaction, direct feedback, and close monitoring of the reading process. Though collaborative work, on the other hand, the virtual environment inspires student autonomy and time reflected though interactive platforms, although it is also present change, such as connected problems, low initial participation, and need the formulation planning time.
Okay, as a main finding, we identified that in-person interaction facilitates immediate interaction and quick resolution of doubts, strengthening a teacher support. In contrast, virtual learning promoted greater autonomy among students and allowed the integration of didactic tools, social videos, and interactive quizzes that increase motivation. Difficulties related to connectivity and initial participation were also evident. However, in both environments, guided reading contributed to strengthening reading comprehension. In this discussion and its implication, we interpret that guide reading promotes reading comprehension and increases motivation when dynamic and participatory activities are used. As a practical application, the importance of teacher support and better planning in virtual environments is highlighted. Finally, we conclude that there is no single ideal method, but rather that strategies must be adapted to the context and the needs of the student. In conclusion, this study demonstrates that both face-to-face and virtual learning can generate positive results when there is an appropriate pedagogical design. Therefore, we recommended that teachers combine traditional resource with digital tools, such as interactive quizzes and collaborative platforms to strengthen motivation and reading comprehension. Finally, we believe that English teaching should be flexible and always adapt to the needs of the context and each student. Thank you very much.
If you ask me what the biggest change of the process was, we thought about it was over time the technology got and the initial lack of participation in virtual environments. This requires much rather effort in lesson planning, but is appropriate use with the most evaluation of the test intervention experience. Thank you.
The next question is, what did you learn as future teachers? Through this research experience, we learned that being a teacher is not only about explaining content, but also about understanding students' needs and adapting our teaching strategies according to each context. One of the most important lessons was recognizing that motivation and emotional support play a key role in the learning process, especially in reading comprehension activities. We also learned that guided reading is an effective strategy because it promotes interaction, participation, and confidence among students while developing reading skills in English. In addition, this experience taught us the importance of being flexible and creative as future teachers. In virtual environments, we had to adapt resources, use digital tools, and design more dynamic activities to maintain students engaged. Finally, we understood that both face to face and virtual learning environments can generate positive results when teachers provide proper guidance, meaningful activities, and continuous support throughout the learning process.
Now, this is the final reflection as a group. Teaching English requires complex and flexible strategies that are tailored to each student context. Furthermore, our experience has showed us that teachers are no longer merely transmitters of knowledge, but a facilitator, but facilitators who guide students toward the reading independence, whether they are standing in front of a blackboard or facing a screen.
To conclude, this research experience allowed us to reflect on the importance of adapting teacher strategies to different learning environments and students' needs. Guided reading shows us that meaningful support, motivation, and interaction can positively influence English reading comprehension in both face to face and virtual contexts. As future teachers, we understand the importance of being creative, flexible, and committed to creating engaging learning experiences for our students. Thank you very much for your attention. We hope this presentation has been meaningful and insightful for all of you.